Hello everyone, this is the FPL trio. I am Pulkit, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts Daniel and Michael. Michael, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good so far. It's Friday here and getting ready for the weekend for EPL and FPL talk. How about you, Daniel?
Yep, all good here as well. As always, excited to be here. And Pulkit, you're good too?
Yeah, I'm good too, and excited for game week 2. We all had a decent game week 1, so let's hope we continue and get green arrows in game week 2. So, alright, so in this video, we basically discuss some key players, some captaincy options, and some transfers based on data from Fantasy Football Hub. We have the Fantasy Football Hub predicted point, and whoever does not use Fantasy Football Hub should consider using it. They have a lot of things in there: point predictions, price changes, fixture difficulty, and so on. So it's really good. We will link Football Hub, Fantasy Football Hub in the description below. So now to start with, it is not a surprise that Haaland is predicted to get the most points in this game week. He is definitely one of the top captaincy choice for players who have him. But I think closely following is Salah. For those Salah owners, all three of us either own Haaland or Salah. So that's a good thing. Are you guys considering anyone except Haaland? Or
Michael, you want to go?
For me, Salah, I can't captain Haaland since I didn't have him, unfortunately. But Salah is the only choice for me this week. He got 14 last week away from home. And game week 2, he's playing Brentford in Anfield. I can see him matching that score of 10 plus points. I know the predicted points here is at 8, but you never know with a new manager. And especially if they keep the same sort of formation and players that was playing last week, I can see him getting 10 plus points. How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, well, I also own Haaland, I own Salah, and I also own Son. He's not up here on the protected points, but he's someone that I'm actually strongly considering versus a depleted defense. So yeah, it's between Son and Salah. I'd say right now, it's maybe a coin toss more on the Son side than the Salah, but I have 24 hours of bed last to think about it. And yeah, just to add on what you said earlier, like Haaland and Salah, it's not a surprise that they're at the top. But you know who is? Eze actually, and he's in that third spot, 6.9. He's the third most, which is predicted points, but he's the third most in the game right now. I don't think any of us on him, right?
yeah,
What me?
No, yeah, no, we don't. So he can hurt us if he does get his predicted points here.
I think Michael has some palace cover with Kamada, so could be interesting there.
Yeah, hopefully Kamada does get it into the middle of the field more, trying to be that number 10 that I am hoping he will be. But I think Eze is going to be a standout player, especially when Mateta is most likely going to be playing a full game this time, as he's got enough rest and training with the team after the Olympics. So I think Eze Mateta is going to be on form, and Kamada might be able to get that assist or possible goal, going with the tail of those two.
Yeah, I was going to ask Pulkit actually, because I think he said he was going to captain Haaland, and Pulkit, a lot of people are triple captaining him. Is that something you're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I did consider triple captain Haaland, and I think there is some merit to doing it. We won't have as many double game weeks as we had in the previous seasons. I think Ben Krellin pointed it out that we have now an extra chip and we would have lesser double game weeks. So we might end up having more chips than the number of double game weeks. So if we have to triple captain someone in a single game week, Haaland versus Ipswich is actually a good candidate. And I moved around it quite a bit, but at the moment I have pretty much decided not to go there. Only reason being that I don't have enough data. It's too early in the season. City were not that great even in game week 1. And finally, the most important point for me is that I don't know how Ipswich will play away from home. City could completely shatter them and score 6, 7 goals. It is a possibility. But again, it is also a possibility that Ipswich just sit deep. We know from our discussion on promoted teams that Ipswich tend to play defensive when it comes to games away from home. So they might sit deep and City maybe struggles a bit, especially because City starts usually slow at the start of the season. So, which is why I don't want to risk it with the triple captainship as well. I'm captaining him. I think that already gives me an edge, but triple captain is a bit too much for me.
Yeah. And like following on that, with Haaland having 50% plus ownership and quite a few managers are thinking of triple captaining him. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Salah's most likely going to be a differential this game week. And I don't think in any other season we would be saying Salah as captain as a differential.
Yeah, that is also true.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, but Son could be even bigger differential as Daniel is considering Son.
No.
It's the only problem with Son is that as we discussed in our match review video of Spurs versus Leicester, Son didn't seem as influencing the game as we expect him to be. So that might change because last game Solanke was playing up top and this game because Solanke is injured, maybe Richarlison comes in, maybe Son takes that number 9 position. So that could also be something to monitor.
Yeah.
I still believe in Spurs that bang football, even though, as you mentioned, they only scored one versus Leicester and Son didn't really get involved. But yeah, I might pull the trigger on that. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But hopefully they could score a few versus Everton or conceded 3 goals to Brighton last game again. Spurs are at home. So, I mean, all things point to captaining Son. But as Michael mentioned, like captaining Salah is already a differential. So that is probably good enough. And Son is an even more differential. So yeah, that's going to be a good thing to think about in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. By the way, because Daniel, you also have Palmer. Are you considering him even closely?
Not really, no. I think right now it's between Son and Salah, even though, I mean, Palmer, we all know how good he is and his big points is pretty high. But I heard he picked up like a small, he was seen clutching his hamstring when they played yesterday in the conference league playoffs. I mean, I heard it's nothing, but just to err on the side of caution here, I think he's going to be an option next week versus Palace. But for this week, for me at least, it's between Son and Salah.
Yeah, I agree. So apart from the 5 or 6 top ones that we speak from here, is there someone else that maybe Michael you would say?
I mean, Saka can be a close shot just because it's Arsenal and how he plays for them. In our previous video, when we saw his heat maps, he seems to be cutting into that corner of the box quite a lot. And he's also earned by only 33% of FPL managers. So if someone doesn't have Haaland, for example, and has Saka and Salah, that's going to be a very difficult choice to make. So I think we should actually be captaining.
What, Pulkit? I know you have a differential captain you want to mention, right?
Yeah, basically. So because I have Haaland, and I would suggest anyone who has Haaland should just go with Haaland because you started with Haaland for a reason. You are paying 15 million for him. So I don't see any point considering anyone else. But if you don't have, I mean, there are some teams who don't have Haaland and Salah. And in that case, I think a Spurs defender who scored a goal in game week 1 could be a differential choice. Pedro Porro. They are playing Everton. Everton got battered by Brighton. We saw in the Spurs match review video. By the way, we will link the link in the description below. So we saw there, Porro plays like a right winger. So he can get the attacking returns, and Everton defense last season was still good, but their attack is not something to boast about. So I can see Porro getting some assist or something and a clean sheet, which is a huge haul.
Yeah. Can you just pull up Porro's predicted points? If you type him in, let's see 3.7. Yeah. Well, they don't agree with you, but I do. I think obviously from what we saw in his heat map, as you mentioned, he's a right winger now for some reason, and he's playing Everton. So there is whole potential for sure. I personally don't own him, so I wouldn't be too thrilled with that. But yeah, he's definitely someone scary to not own. And as you said, he is a differential option as a captain, even if you don't own. Because if you own Haaland at 15 million and you're not captaining him, I mean, there's no need to own him, right? So if you own Haaland, you're gonna captain him. But if not, and there's so many other, I would say anyone other than Haaland is gonna be a differential. So if you don't own Haaland, it's pick of the litter. Whoever you think is gonna do good, go for him. And Porro is one of those people who should be like highly considered.
Yes, I agree.
And another player that I'm thinking of also that might be a very outside pick is Frozen from Man City. Because I'm assuming he'll be starting this week in game week 2. And especially when they're playing Ipswich, and if everyone is thinking Haaland's going to score 2, 3, 4 goals, Foden KDB is going to be right behind them trying to get that assist or that additional goal. Do you guys think that he would be a good differential pick as captain?
Yeah, I think so too. But that's the
Then-
question. Does he start? I mean, I know Sabina got hurt at the last game, so we have to wait on Pep's press conference to see like what's going on, if Foden's trained, if he's fit to start. But yeah, I mean, last year he was a beast. I remember like he used to score hat-tricks for fun at times.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got outside shot.
Yeah, I agree. Foden is always a good option because he has the XG threat in that game. I mean, if I remove Foden's name from here, I think Fantasy Football Hub suggests KDB quite up. But
Yeah.
for me, at the same price, if we know that Foden starts, then Foden, because of that XG threat compared to De Bruyne's excess threat, I think Foden is even a better option than De Bruyne and could be considered. It's just that lot less people would be owning Foden because he was not going to start the season and a lot of us already knew about him. So maybe that might be something that avoids people from captaining him.
Sorry, he's 70% owned. So yeah, you're saying sorry.
Yeah, I was saying also I read sometime before that Savinho was featured in training, like partial training. So he might be fit to start.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that's definitely gonna play a role, in Foden. So that's interesting.
All right. So I guess we are done with the captaincy discussion. Top ones are pretty much Haaland for whoever has Haaland. And then it could be close between Salah, Saka, and Son maybe as the alternative options. And differential ones we discussed were Foden. And if you want to go for a defender captain, then Porro is probably the best defender. Maybe Trent.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. Versus also at home at Anfield, he also has that attacking threat. 5.5. That's better than Porro's expected. So yeah, like he's gonna be. I mean, he's 7 million, so that's why we pay premium for him, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I should have actually said Trent as well if I'm saying Porro because Trent is definitely a good option for captaincy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you said we spoke about captains. We also spoke about the players in general, like their points. So yeah, any other players you guys are curious to talk about? To see, can we check Watkins?
Yes. So with Watkins, I think why he's not appearing up the list is because we narrowed it down to just game week 2 and Watkins has Arsenal. But across the next 4 or 5, I think it should be quite up. So Watkins has 27 points predicted across, like if you go from game week 2 to 6. I think it shouldn't be too low down the list.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna start. If he doesn't start this week, he's gonna start next week for sure, and then he's gonna be like a regular. And he's already 32% owned. I think that's only gonna go up because I mean we know how good Watkins is. He did overperform last year on his practical involvement, but he's still like a very decent pick. He's like Villa's talisman after all.
Yeah, I agree. And if we look at Villa's fixtures, maybe I'll just quickly go to fixture ticker because me and Michael were discussing them a few minutes back. So Villa, after Arsenal game, has Leicester, Everton, Wolves, Ipswich, and Manchester United. So after Arsenal, the next 4, 2 promoted teams and 2 home games. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, just to touch on that, my plan was always to bring in Watkins from game week 3 onwards, and now with the Solanke injury, it's gonna be much easier to like upgrade Solanke to Watkins and then downgrade one of my midfielders probably to like Eze or as we were talking in the previous video. So yeah, I definitely like build up as a team to target from, as you mentioned, like game week 3 to game week 6.
And also, I think Watkins being sold because he didn't start. And of course, there are a lot of managers who react too quickly in the start of the season. So there is a possibility that we might get him for this easy run at a price drop.
Yeah, if Watkins does drop to 8.9 or even 8.8, I'm most likely going to buy him for a cut break price. And at that time, he's probably only going to be like 30% owned or less. Yeah. So if any more transfers does come, he's probably going to be about 30% or less. And for one of the top goal scorers for last season, that's a pretty good number. That's pretty good for you if you do own him.
Yeah, agree. And also, Michael, because you mentioned Foden. So as soon as we went from game weeks 2 to 6, Foden comes up quite a lot. It's basically because Fantasy Football Hub doesn't predict him to get good minutes. So just 59 minutes in this week, which is why for this week he had slightly lower points. And I guess we discussed most of the important players, the captaincy options for this week, and some transfer picks. Do you guys want to add something else?
No, I don't know. From my side, I think no, I'm good. Mike, to give any other players for go over the stress.
Yeah, like for me, I wasn't planning on any transfers, but come to think of it, I might be selling Gordon potentially just for other picks. I know that Newcastle had, only 10 players last game, so it's very hard to rate his performance. However, I think Diego Jota might be a very good option for trading and also Foden depending on the press conference. Like if Jota does get the number 9 start, he will potentially get for the rest of the season because Swap seems to be a player that if you going good, you'll stick in that position until you actually start, having a bad day. I mean, look at Kwanzaa, 45 minutes, not good. He is already subbed off at halftime. I mean, that's a ruthless streak that you do not want to cross. So how about you, Pulchit? Do you have any other players or possible transfers this week?
No, this week I'm pretty much sure that I'd be rolling. In game week 3, I'll just see how it goes. Having 2 transfers would be good. All right, then I guess we covered most of the things, so we can end the video. Thanks everyone for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.